July 14th, 1518, a narrow, cobbled street in Strasbourg. A woman steps out of her house and begins to dance. There's no music, there's no festival, and there's no audience. There's just a woman on a street moving her body in a way that looks less like dancing and more like something's moving her body for her. Her husband calls to her. She does not respond. He reaches for her arm. She twists away. She keeps moving. She dances for the rest of the day. She dances through the night. She collapses on the cobblestone, wakes up, and starts dancing again. By the fourth day, her feet are bleeding. She has barely eaten. She has barely slept. And the detail that every contemporary account agrees on is the look on her face. She does not look happy. She does not look like a woman who's choosing to dance. She looks terrified. She looks like a prisoner inside her own body. Her name is Frau Troffea, and what happens next to her, to the people around her, and to the city of Strasbourg is one of the strangest and most disturbing events in recorded history. It is fully documented, and nobody, not in 1518, not in 2026, can fully explain it. But before we continue, the Midnight Archives exist for one reason, and that's to find the stories they buried, the ones too dark to be told during the day. They buried this one for a reason, and now we're going to dig it up. If that's what you're here for, hit subscribe and like this video, and I'll keep the candle lit. Now, let's get back to Strasbourg, to the summer of 1518, to a city that was already dying before the first foot moved. Welcome to the Midnight Archives. Chapter 1. The city that was already dying. Before the first foot moved, before the first dancer collapsed, before the musicians were hired and the stages were built, there is a city, and the city is already broken. The firewood is stacked, the kindling is dry. All it needs is a spark. Strasbourg in 1518 is not a backwater. It is a major city of the Holy Roman Empire, prosperous, strategic, sitting on the Rhine. It has a great Gothic cathedral whose spire is the tallest structure in the world. It has half-timbered houses crowded along narrow streets. It has a thriving merchant class, a busy horse market, guilds and taverns and churches. By the standards of its time, it should be thriving. It is not thriving. It is dying slowly from the inside out. The famines come first. Crop failures in 1492, again in 1502, again in 1511. The harvests collapse with a regularity that feels less like bad luck and more like punishment. Drought scorches the fields in the summer of 1516. The winter that follows is brutal, and the year 1517 is described by one resident chronicler with a phrase that needs no translation. He calls it simply the bad year. The families who have lived off this land for generations are now slaughtering their livestock because they cannot afford to feed the animals and themselves. They take out loans at ruinous interest from the moneylenders. They line up at the city gates for charity handouts. The countryside around Strasbourg is emptying, the rural poor flooding into the city because they have nowhere else to go. The streets are filling with hungry, desperate people who have lost everything except the clothes they stand in. And then the diseases arrive. Smallpox has been circulating for years, but in 1495, a new disease appears in Europe, syphilis. It spreads through the armies fighting the Italian wars, and when the mercenary pikemen return home to Strasbourg in 1517, they bring it with them. It is a disease nobody understands. The symptoms are horrifying. Open sores that will not heal, madness, slow, visible, humiliating decay of the body. The people of Strasbourg watch their neighbours rot and have no explanation for it except God's displeasure. Then the sweating sickness arrives, a mysterious illness that kills within hours. The symptoms are grotesque: copious sweating, delirium, an unquenchable thirst that no amount of water can satisfy. A person can be healthy at breakfast and dead by supper. In August 1517, the people of Strasbourg attend a holy procession through the streets, contra pestilentium, against the plague. They beg the Virgin Mary and Saint Sebastian for mercy. They march and they pray and they weep. The diseases do not stop. These are people who believe in divine providence. God's hand is in everything. A healthy birth is God's favor. A spoiled crop is God's displeasure. A plague is God's punishment. When 3 plagues arrive simultaneously, with famine, with drought, with economic ruin, the message is unmistakable. God is angry. The devil is close. Something has gone terribly, fundamentally wrong with the world, and the people of Strasbourg do not know what it is, but they can feel it pressing down on them like a weight that grows heavier every day. This is the city that Frau Troffea lives in, a city where the food is running out, the diseases are spreading, the money is gone, and the only explanation anyone can offer is that God has turned his face away. This is the ground the plague will grow from. Not cursed ground, not poisoned ground, exhausted ground. The ground of a population that has been pushed to the absolute limit of what the human mind can bear. And on July the 14th, 1518, something gives. Chapter 2. The Dance. A woman steps into the street. She begins to move. She cannot stop. And what happens to a human body when it dances without stopping for days, on bleeding feet, in the July heat, without food, without water, without rest, is a kind of horror that does not require a monster. The body is the monster, and the body is the victim. July 14th, 1518. Frau Troffea steps out of her half-timbered house onto the narrow cobbled street. The July sun is high. The air is thick and hot. She begins to move. The movement is not graceful. It is not rhythmic. It is not the dancing of a woman at a festival or a wedding. She hops from foot to foot. She twists. She jerks. Her arms move in patterns that have no obvious purpose. Her body looks less like it is performing and more like it is being operated by something she cannot see and cannot resist. There is no music, no drum, no pipe, no song. The only sound is her feet on the cobblestones and the whisper of her breathing. She is alone on the street, surrounded by people who have stopped what they are doing to watch, but she is utterly alone inside whatever is happening to her. Her husband is in the doorway. He has been calling her name. She does not turn. She does not acknowledge him. Her eyes are somewhere else, glazed, fixed, vacant, present in body, absent in mind. He reaches for her arm. She twists away, not with the deliberate evasion of a person who doesn't want to be touched, but with the reflexive, automatic movement of a body that is already following a different set of instructions. The dance has her. It will not let go. Day 1 passes, strange but not alarming. A woman behaving oddly in the street. She will stop when she is tired. She will stop when it gets dark. She will stop. Day 2. She has not stopped. She danced through the night. She has barely eaten. Her husband has tried to bring her water. She drinks when it is pressed to her lips, mechanically, without pausing the movement, and continues. The neighbours are no longer laughing. Something is wrong. This is not stubbornness. This is not a performance. This is a woman who cannot stop her own legs from moving. Day 3. Her feet are swelling. The thin leather of her shoes, the practical shoes of a working woman, not the fine leather of a noblewoman, is wearing through. By the evening of the third day, the leather has given way. She is dancing on raw blistered skin. The blisters break, the fluid runs. The skin underneath is exposed, wet, red, and agonizingly sensitive. She is dancing on open wounds. She does not stop. Day 4. The blood begins. It seeps through what remains of her shoes. It marks the cobblestones. She is leaving a trail now, a pattern of dark smears on the street that shows where she has been, the way a wounded animal leaves a trail through the forest. Her face is gaunt. Her lips are cracked. The muscles of her legs, which have been contracting and extending for nearly 100 hours without meaningful rest, are beginning to break down. The medical term is rhabdomyolysis, the destruction of muscle tissue from prolonged, unrelenting exertion. The products of the breaking muscle flood the bloodstream. The kidneys struggle to filter them. The body is eating itself for fuel, and she is still dancing. What happens to a human body under these conditions is documented medical reality. The heart rate, elevated for days without relief, puts strain on the cardiac system. The core temperature rises, hypothermia in the July heat, without shade, without adequate water. The joints swell, the tendons stretch and tear. The mind enters a dissociative state, a condition where consciousness separates from the body, where the person is aware but not present, watching what is happening to them without the ability to intervene. It is the brain's last defense against a situation it cannot resolve, a shutting down of the connection between the self and the suffering. She is not unconscious. She is not in a coma. She is awake. She can feel the pain. She simply cannot make it stop. After between 4 and 6 days, the accounts differ on the exact number. The authorities intervene. Frau Troffea is placed in a wagon and transported out of the city. She is taken to the mountaintop shrine of St. Vitus at Hohenstein, a chapel in the hills outside Strasbourg, dedicated to the saint the people of this region believe has the power to curse you with a dancing plague. At the shrine, according to the accounts, she is given red shoes to wear, a ritual offering. She is led around a wooden figure of St. Vitus. Prayers are said. The dancing stops. Frau Troffea recovers. She disappears from the historical record. We do not know what happened to her after the shrine. We do not know if she lived a normal life. We do not know if she ever danced again, at a wedding, at a festival, for joy. The records go silent. She is the most famous dancer in the history of the Western world, and we know almost nothing about her except the worst week of her life. But by the time she is taken to the shrine, it is already too late, because other people have started dancing. Within the first week, 30 people are in the streets of Strasbourg. They are not copying Frau Troffea. They are not imitating her for attention or entertainment. They appear to be seized by the same compulsion, an uncontrollable urge to move that overrides every conscious attempt to stop. They dance in the streets, in the markets, in the public squares. Some scream, some weep, some stare blankly ahead with expressions that look nothing like joy and everything like terror. The city council records the outbreak in their official minutes. They are alarmed. They consult the city's physicians. The physicians diagnose hot blood, an overheating of the body's humoral system that can only be resolved by allowing the fever to run its course. Their recommendation is logical within their medical framework and catastrophic in its consequences. The dancers must be encouraged to dance more, sweat it out, burn the fever from the blood, let the sickness exhaust itself. The city council accepts the recommendation. They are about to make the worst public health decision in the history of Strasbourg. Chapter 3. The Cure. The city council has a plan. The physicians have given their diagnosis. The cure is simple. Help the dancers dance. Build them stages. Hire them musicians. Give them space to sweat the fever out. It is the most reasonable response available to 16th century medicine. It is also, by a margin that defies belief, the single worst thing they could have done. The city council acts quickly. They are men of authority and organization, guild masters, merchants, civic leaders, and they do what men of authority do. They build infrastructure. A stage is constructed in the horse market, one of the largest open spaces in Strasbourg. The timber is fresh. The platform is raised so the dancers can be seen. It is a practical decision. If the dancers are going to dance, let them do it in a controlled space, rather than collapsing in the middle of the streets where they block commerce and frighten the citizens. Order, management, the application of bureaucratic logic to a problem that has nothing to do with logic. Then they hire the musicians, professional pipers and drummers paid from the city treasury. The reasoning within the physician's framework makes perfect sense. If the dancers are going to dance the fever out, then music will help them maintain a rhythm. It will prevent the chaotic, spasmodic movements that cause injury. It will give the dancing a structure, a pace, a shape. The dancers will dance in time, and the music will guide them through the fever the way a nurse's hand guides a sick child through a crisis. In some accounts, the city even hires professional dancers, healthy men and women paid to dance alongside the afflicted, to model controlled, rhythmic movement, to lead by example, to show the sick how to dance properly so they can recover faster. The city council is trying to help. This needs to be understood. They are not cruel. They are not indifferent. They are applying the best medical knowledge available to them in a situation that has no precedent in their experience. They are doing what they believe is right. They are building a factory for producing the exact conditions that make the plague worse. Modern understanding of mass psychogenic illness and trance states tells us what the city council could not possibly know. The conditions that induce and sustain a trance are specific and well documented. Rhythmic sound, repetitive physical movement, focused attention from observers, a shared cultural belief that the trance is real and beyond the individual's control, a communal setting where the behavior is recognized, expected, and socially sanctioned. The city council has just provided every single one of these conditions. The drums provide the rhythmic sound. The stage provides the performance space. The audience provides the focused attention. The musicians provide the structure that sustains the movement. And by officially sanctioning the dancing, by building stages, by paying musicians, by bringing in professional dancers, the council has sent a message to every person in Strasbourg. The dancing is real. It is a medical phenomenon. It is beyond the individual's control, and the authorities recognize it. That recognition is the accelerant. The numbers explode. Estimates vary between sources. Some say 200 dancers at the peak. Some say 400. The exact number is uncertain and probably unknowable. What is documented is that the dancing grows dramatically after the stages and musicians are introduced. The cure is gasoline on a fire. The scenes at the horse market are beyond anything the citizens of Strasbourg have witnessed. Present tense, the July sun beats down on the wooden stage. The sound of pipes and drums fills the square. Dozens of people, men and women, though the accounts note more women than men, hop, jerk, spin, and twist on the stage. Their movements are not coordinated. They are not dancing together. Each person is locked in their own private compulsion, following a rhythm that may or may not match the music, responding to an instruction that comes from somewhere inside them that they cannot identify or refuse. Some are crying, some are screaming, some have their eyes closed, their faces twisted into expressions that look more like agony than ecstasy. Some have their eyes open but unfocused, staring at nothing, seeing nothing, present in body and absent from everything else. Their clothing is soaked through with sweat. Their feet, the ones who still have shoes, leave dark marks on the timber. The ones who have lost their shoes leave darker marks. The audience watches. This is the most dangerous element of all. Hundreds of people standing around the stage, fascinated, horrified, unable to look away. They have come to see the spectacle. They have come because there is nothing else to see in Strasbourg in July 1518 that is more extraordinary than this. And as they watch, as they stand in the sun, listening to the drums, surrounded by a crowd, watching bodies move in patterns that their own bodies recognize at a level deeper than conscious thought, some of them begin to sway, some begin to tap their feet, some step forward and join the dancers. The contagion spreads through observation. Watching makes you vulnerable. People begin to collapse. They dance until their bodies simply fail. The legs buckle. The heart rate spikes beyond what the body can sustain. The dehydration and the heat and the exhaustion combine into a catastrophic failure. They fall on the stage. They fall in the square. Some are carried away by their families. Some lie where they fall, too exhausted to move, too broken to stand. And then, after a period of rest that is never long enough, they get up and start dancing again. Whether people die on the stages is debated by historians. Contemporary accounts say yes, people drop dead from exhaustion, stroke, and heart failure. The physician and alchemist Paracelsus, who visited Strasbourg 8 years later to investigate the plague, recorded that people died. The historian John Waller, who has studied the 1518 plague more extensively than any modern scholar, accepts that deaths occurred. Other historians are more cautious, noting that the precise death toll is not documented with certainty and that some contemporary accounts may have exaggerated. The script will be honest about what we know and what we don't. People collapsed, people were injured, people danced on broken, bleeding feet in the summer heat for days without adequate food or water. Whether the final count is 6 or 60, the suffering is not in question. The body horror is documented, the deaths are reported, the certainty is incomplete. That is the honest version. What is not debated is that the cure made it worse. The city council, to their credit, eventually recognized this. It takes weeks, agonizing weeks, during which the numbers climb and the collapses multiply. But eventually the authorities abandon the physician's prescription. The music is stopped, the stages are dismantled, the professional dancers are sent home. A new approach is needed, and the city turns to the only authority left. Not the physicians, not the council, the church. And the church has an answer. The dancers are not sick, they are cursed. And the saint who cursed them is the only one who can lift it. Chapter 4. It has happened before. What happened in Strasbourg in 1518 was not an anomaly. It was not a one-off event, an aberration, a glitch in the history of a single city. Dancing plagues had been erupting across Europe for centuries, and one of them, one that nobody tells you about, may have inspired one of the most famous legends in the Western world. The year is 1237. The place is the town of Erfurt in central Germany, roughly 300 miles northeast of Strasbourg. A group of children begin to dance. The accounts are sparse. This is the 13th century, and detailed documentation is the exception rather than the rule. But the outline is clear, and it is haunting. Dozens of children, possibly over 100, begin to move through the streets of Erfurt. They are not playing. They are not celebrating. They are dancing with the same compulsive, involuntary, unstoppable quality that will later be described in Strasbourg 3 centuries later. They cannot stop. Their parents cannot stop them. Adults reach for their children's arms, grab their hands, try to hold them still, and the children twist away, pulled by a force that is stronger than a parent's grip, stronger than a parent's love, stronger than anything the people of Erfurt have ever seen. And then they leave. The children dance out of the town, through the gates, down the road, toward the neighboring town of Arnstadt, roughly 12 miles away. 12 miles. For a child's legs, that is a journey of several hours at walking pace. But they are not walking. They are dancing, hopping, jerking, spinning along a road that cuts through open countryside, their small bodies silhouetted against the sky, moving together but not in unison, each child following their own private compulsion down the same shared road. Some collapse on the way. The smallest legs give out first. Some, according to the chronicles, die, though the accounts are too sparse to confirm numbers. The survivors arrive in Arnstadt exhausted and traumatized. Many of them, the accounts say, never fully recover. Their parents, who may have followed the procession helplessly along the road, carry their children home from Arnstadt with the look that parents have when something has happened to their child that cannot be undone. The parallel is striking because 47 years later, in 1284, according to the legend, a mysterious figure arrives in the town of Hamelin, roughly 100 miles north of Erfurt. He plays a pipe. The children of the town follow him. They dance out of the town, following the music, and they are never seen again. The Pied Piper of Hamelin. The connection between the 1237 Erfurt children's dance and the Pied Piper legend is not proven. It is scholarly speculation. Some historians believe the Erfurt event was one of the real incidents behind the legend. Others are more cautious. The dates don't match exactly. The towns are different. But the shape of the story is the same. Children, seized by a compulsion connected to music and movement, dancing out of a town and down a road, many of them never returning. The fairy tale may be a folk memory of something real, a dancing plague, remembered imperfectly across decades, reshaped into a story about a man with a pipe, because a man with a pipe is easier to understand than a compulsion with no visible cause. The Erfurt outbreak was not the first, and it was not the last. In 1374, the largest documented dancing plague in history erupts. It begins on June 24th, the feast day of St. John the Baptist, in the city of Aachen, the ancient coronation city of the Holy Roman Emperors, the city where Charlemagne is buried. This is not a backwater. This is one of the great cities of medieval Europe, and hundreds of its citizens pour into the streets and begin to dance. The mania does not stay in Aachen. It spreads along the Rhine, to Cologne, to Flanders, to Metz, to Utrecht, to Tongeren. It crosses borders. It moves through communities like a contagion, not through physical contact, but through witness. People who see the dancing begin to dance. People who hear about the dancing travel to see it and begin to dance. The phenomenon feeds on attention the way fire feeds on oxygen. Thousands are affected across multiple cities and countries. The German medical historian Justus Hecker, writing in the 19th century from contemporary chronicles, described what the records documented. "They formed circles hand in hand," he wrote, "and seemed to completely lose control of their senses, and, ignoring passers-by, continued to dance in wild delirium for hours until they finally fell to the ground from exhaustion." The 1374 outbreak occurred in communities still reeling from the Black Death, the plague that had killed roughly a third of Europe's population just 20 years earlier. The connection is not coincidental. These are communities where grief is not an individual experience, but a shared atmospheric condition. Every family has lost someone. Every household has an empty chair. The social fabric, the web of relationships and rituals and daily interactions that holds a community together, has been torn apart. The dancing plague does not arrive in healthy populations. It arrives in broken ones. The dancers of 1374 share every feature of the dancers of 1518, the compulsive, involuntary quality, the inability to stop, the physical deterioration, the dissociative state, present but not present, aware but not in control. Some tear their clothes, some foam at the mouth, some scream that they are being tormented by demons, some beg onlookers to beat them, claiming that blows to the stomach relieve the compulsion. They are not performing, they are suffering. The 1374 outbreak follows the same geography as the Black Death. The same communities devastated by plague 20 years earlier are now devastated by dance. The connection is not coincidental. These are populations that have already been psychologically shattered. Communities where every family has buried someone, where the social fabric has been torn apart, where the relationship between the living and the dead has been permanently disrupted. The dancing plague is not a separate catastrophe. It is the echo of the first one, the aftershock, and then the detail that transforms the Strasbourg plague from a strange event into something genuinely chilling. Strasbourg itself experienced a dancing plague in 1418, the same city, the same phenomenon, exactly 100 years before Frau Troffea stepped into the street. The 1418 outbreak is documented in the city's own records. The people of Strasbourg in 1518 know about it. It is part of their civic memory. Their grandparents' generation lived through it. They have a name for it. They have a cultural script for it, a shared understanding of what the dancing plague is, how it works, and who sends it. This matters enormously because the pattern, confirmed across every major outbreak from the 7th century to the 17th, is this: dancing plagues only occur in communities that believe in them. They only occur in populations that have a cultural framework for involuntary, curse-driven dancing. They only occur where the idea of a saint or a spirit with the power to seize your body already exists in the collective imagination. The belief provides the template, the suffering provides the fuel, and the template tells the suffering what shape to take. In southern Italy, a related phenomenon persists for centuries. People bitten by tarantula spiders or believing they have been bitten begin to dance uncontrollably. The cure is music, a rapid driving musical form that becomes known as the tarantella. The sufferers dance for days until the poison is sweated out. The phenomenon, called tarantism, follows the same pattern: extreme stress, a cultural belief system that provides a template for the symptoms, and a community that responds to the affliction in ways that sustain it rather than end it. The tarantella persists in parts of southern Italy into the 20th century. The dancing plague is not a medieval curiosity. It is a recurring pattern, documented across centuries, across cultures, across the entire span of European history. It appears wherever two conditions are met: a population under unbearable stress, and a shared belief that the body can be seized by a force beyond individual control. Strasbourg in 1518 has both. The stress is documented, the belief is documented, and the results are lying on the stages of the horse market with bleeding feet and empty eyes. Chapter 5. The Saint. The physicians have failed, the city council has made it worse, and the people of Strasbourg turn to the only authority they have left. Not science, not government, faith, and the saint they turn to is the same saint they believe cursed them in the first place. Saint Vitus is a Sicilian youth martyred under the Emperor Diocletian in 303 AD. He is one of the 14 Holy Helpers, a group of saints venerated across medieval Europe for their power to intercede against specific diseases and afflictions. Saint Vitus is the patron saint of dancers, actors, and entertainers. He is also the patron saint of people suffering from epilepsy and nervous disorders. The condition we now call Sydenham's chorea, a neurological disorder characterized by involuntary movements, was historically known as Saint Vitus's dance. But in the folklore of the Rhineland, in the specific local, deeply held beliefs of the people of Strasbourg and the surrounding region, Saint Vitus has a power that goes beyond patronage. He can curse you, he can reach down and seize control of your body, he can make your legs move against your will, he can make you dance until your feet bleed and your heart gives out. And the only way to appease him, the only way to lift the curse, is to travel to his shrine, make an offering, and beg for his mercy. This is not metaphorical. This is not a quaint folk tradition that people observe with a wink and a smile. The people of Strasbourg in 1518 believe this literally as they believe in the Trinity, as literally as they believe in heaven and hell. Saint Vitus can curse you. It has happened before, in 1418, in their own city. It is happening again, and the only remedy is the shrine. When the city council finally abandons the physician's approach, when they stop the music, dismantle the stages, and acknowledge that the cure has been worse than the disease, they turn to the church, and the church provides an answer that is, in its own way, as logical as the physician's prescription of hot blood had been. The afflicted dancers are gathered, they are loaded into wagons, their bodies limp, their feet destroyed, their minds somewhere between consciousness and trance. They are transported out of the city, along the roads, into the hills, to the mountaintop shrine of Saint Vitus at Hohenstein. At the shrine, the ritual begins. According to some accounts, the dancers are given red shoes to wear. The red shoes are a ritual offering connected to Saint Vitus through a tradition whose precise origins are lost. They are led around a wooden figure of the saint, a carved wooden image, old and dark with smoke and age, standing in a chapel on a hilltop above the Alsatian countryside. The space is everything the horse market was not. There are no drums, there are no pipes, there is no audience of hundreds pressing forward to see the spectacle. There is quiet, there is stone, there is the smell of candle wax and old wood and the cool air of a mountain chapel. The priests say Mass. The prayers are spoken in Latin, the sacred language, the language of the divine, the language that connects this small chapel on a hill to every church in Christendom. The dancers, their bodies spent, their minds exhausted, their feet wrapped in the red shoes they have been given, are placed in a space where the cultural script changes completely. In the horse market, the script said, "You are sick, the dancing is the fever, dance until it breaks." Here, at the shrine, The script says, "The saint who cursed you is here. The offering has been made. The prayers have been said. The curse is lifted. You can stop now." The dancing stops. Not immediately in every case, not all at once, but gradually, over the weeks of September 1518, the plague subsides. The dancers who are taken to the shrine stop dancing. The new cases slow. By September, roughly 2 months after Frau Troffea stepped into the street, the dancing plague of 1518 is over. Why does the shrine work? John Waller, the historian whose book A Time to Dance, A Time to Die is the most comprehensive modern study of the 1518 plague, argues that the shrine works for the same reason the stages made it worse. The mechanism is psychological. The same force that started the plague is the force that ends it. Belief. The dancers believe they are cursed by St. Vitus. They believe the shrine has the power to lift the curse. The shrine provides a framework for recovery, a ritual, a narrative, a reason to stop that makes sense within the world they live in. The trance state, which the music and the stages and the audience sustained by providing exactly the right conditions for its continuation, is broken by a new context, a sacred space, a direct encounter with the saint who cursed them, a communal ritual of healing rather than a spectacle of suffering. The cure is belief. The disease was also belief. The same psychological mechanism operating in the same population, in the same cultural framework, produces both the affliction and the recovery. The sword cuts both ways. 8 years later, in 1526, the physician and alchemist Paracelsus visits Strasbourg and investigates the plague. He is one of the first people to treat the dancing plague as a medical phenomenon rather than a purely supernatural one. He is skeptical of the divine explanation. He is interested in the connection between the mind and the body, in the idea that the body can produce symptoms that originate not in the organs but in the imagination. He writes about the plague in his Opus Paramirum. He does not fully explain it. He cannot. Nobody can. Not in 1526. Not in 2026. The mass psychogenic illness theory is the most widely accepted explanation among modern historians and psychologists. The theory proposes that the dancing plague was a stress-induced trance state, a collective psychological response to unbearable conditions, channeled through a cultural template that told the trance what form to take. The suffering provided the fuel. The belief in St. Vitus's curse provided the shape. The stages and the musicians provided the conditions that sustained it, and the shrine provided the conditions that ended it. But the theory is not proven. It is the best explanation available. It is not certainty. Nobody can run the experiment again. Nobody can travel back to Strasbourg in 1518 and measure cortisol levels and brain activity and trance state indicators. The dancing plague remains, 500 years later, one of the most well-documented and least understood events in the history of medicine. What we can say with certainty is this: it happened, it is documented. Ordinary people, mothers, fathers, workers, neighbors, were seized by a compulsion to dance that they could not control and that lasted for weeks. They were not performing, they were suffering, and the look on their faces, the detail that every contemporary account agrees on, was not joy, it was terror, the terror of a person who is trapped inside their own body, a passenger in a vehicle they cannot steer, watching their legs move and knowing with absolute helpless clarity that they cannot make them stop. And Frau Troffea, the woman who started it all, the woman whose name is the first thing recorded and the last thing remembered, she disappears from the historical record after the shrine. We do not know what happened to her. We do not know if she recovered fully. We do not know if she lived a long life or a short one. We do not know if she ever danced again, voluntarily, joyfully, by choice. The records go silent. The woman whose body started a plague is swallowed by the silence of history, and we are left with nothing but her name and the image of her feet on the cobblestones, bleeding, swollen, moving, 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 on a hot July afternoon in a city that was already dying. The most disturbing thing about the dancing plague of 1518 is not the bleeding feet, it's not the collapsing bodies, or the stage, or the horse market, or the musicians hired to play while people dance themselves into cardiac failure. The most disturbing thing is the faces. Every account describes the same thing. They were not smiling, they were not celebrating. They look like people who were trapped inside their own bodies, passengers in a vehicle they could not steer, watching their legs move and knowing they could not make them stop. We don't know why it happened. 500 years of medicine and psychology have not produced a definitive answer. We know it happened before, in Erfurt, in Aachen, in Strasbourg itself, a century earlier. We know it follows suffering, we know it follows belief, and we know there is no reason, no medical, no psychological or historical reason to say with certainty that it could never happen again. The next time you're at a concert or a festival or a wedding, the next time the music starts and your body begins to move before your mind gives it permission, and you feel for just a moment that the music is moving you rather than moving to the music, think of Frau Troffea, think of the narrow street and the July heat and the sound of feet on cobblestones without music, and ask yourself, what would you do if you couldn't stop? If this changed the way you hear music, subscribe to the Midnight Archives, where we illuminate the dark corners of history, the stories that live beneath the ones we tell ourselves. Until next time, keep the candle lit.